So my contention is that price is price, and price is vertical on a chart. You see the high prices above you and the low prices below you, which may sound really sophomoric, but unfortunately, the markets are designed inherently for price. There's no doubt that you can put up amazing colored things, but in the end, it's price. So this grid's set up in a way to be visually keyed to the round numbers. If you see the big black line, you know you're at a round number of some sort. You could actually go for 1,000 pip round numbers, but this is 100 pips. And notice the tag and bag at the 100-yard line here. Now, it's hard to believe, and I think this is where belief systems really are disturbing. It's a double-edged sword. So imagine you had a sell limit up here, and you had to take profits, say you just wanted to make 50 pips, and you ran a 25 pip stop. It's an unbelievable trade. So if you did the same trade here, if this top means something, and this actual wick, this whole area from the closing price to the wick is important, then when the market starts to probe back in, like even whatever it did up there, without regard to what it did up there, it's always going to be a good place to buy. We overshoot here, so you'd have to get in on a 20, on a 40, on an 80 pip deep script. So you have to place buy limits all the way to this is where you really should have got in. Like, it's not to say that this entry is not good, and maybe everything has a master stop here, right? Here you have buy limits too that maybe never filled, but you're filling them now, and you're long because of the price. That's it. This is 10 pips from here to here. So imagine you bought with a 20 pip stop and you got in right here in this focal point. The fact that this market retests this triangle here, and I'm just making two valleys and two mountains make a triangle there. Right at the apex of the round number. And we've also chopped all of these wicks off. We just filled this fault. This is the easy scalp. Now, you also have this bottom carried forward at the 20-yard line. You needed to have buy limits all the way down here. Now, I realize that these buy limits are underwater, but you had buy limits here too that never got filled. And how did you size that? And if you buy way more here, like this is another reason to really, really buy. You're actually underwater here. You had to really, really buy on this. Like if all you saw was the lows. Here, let me make this easier. Now, it's not that wicks don't matter, but if you add insert indicators, and everything I run is one period because I want to have the tightest, I don't want any lag on anything. And I'm moving average and I'm going to run it on the lows only. So you come here and you want to see what the bottom, the bid is for the whole market on the lows for the vacuum there. So if I take off the closing prices and you just pay attention to the, let's see, we'll take indicators. I'm just going to pull off the original. So just running lows, it looked pretty bizarre, but this gives you a feel for the vacuum. This also gives you if you're going to put in sell stops, this is what a sell bot would see, a sell stop bot. But you can also see the valleys really nicely, the volatility valleys, different than the closing, different than price over time. But like when they chop, if you could see the 5-minute chart during this stage, it's very easy to do analysis like this. So if you mark off this low and this low and this low, as you cut through that, you'd be surprised the behavior. You're going to see the breakout, the whole pullback. If you drill down on the daily chart, go to the 1 hour, you see how it cuts through, comes down, and we get the breakout pullback. This is the closing. This is the lows. Huge vapor here. You're selling more based on the behavior. When you have a trailing, it's a volatility entry breakout system. In sell mode only. I could put the high on there, but it's very disoriented. It's overwhelming to me. I'm easily overwhelmed. If you're just looking pure bars, you're really focusing on the lows here. Another thing you could do that's kind of fun. Of course, you won't get a lot of. This is almost like a tick bar chart in a way, because you don't have any closing prices. You don't know where the market is at the end of each session, each 1 hour session here. But you do know that there's a whole. You can see the pressure on the lows building up. So say you're a bear, you know. You'd say this template. Let's see if I can. Okay, this is lucky. So you could say this template, if you're a bear, and you just call it bear, right? Or just call it B. Put an emoji in there. Right? Some little animated GIF of a bear snoring. Now you could run this on the. Here's the DAX, right? All markets, works in all markets. If you hate the DAX, if you want to sell the DAX. Okay, so template, we go for the bear. Oh, look, it capitalized it for me. That's funny. Even if you don't, it's going to help you. There's the daily, the bear report. And you can see how much winning the bears making the lower lows. Here's the 4 hour double top in a bottom. That's a double top of bottoms here. And you could run RSI in that too. This is an idea I came up with when I got it seriously into RSI, like it was almost like a cult for me. Really just, it's just so easy to put on that trade. It makes total sense. Momentum of the bears. So insert RSI here. And I'm just using RSI as an index. It's the only pure indicator that ever existed because it's an index. So I think they call it an oscillator here. RSI. Now I'm going to set this thing on yellow because I want it to cue off what I did, and I'm going to put it to lows. RSI and lows. And I'm going to fatten it up. And I'm going to take it from 14 and I'm going to make it 3 because I have no patience for this fucking indicator. So I've kind of built in some of my anger into my trading. Made sure to get that right up front. Here's divergence. Here's a huge sell in the 4 hour DAX. I don't know how this works because I don't think this market's open all the time, but very subtle. Right here you have a higher low. Man, it's hard to speak like that. If you mark off the lows here, see divergence, and you've got low ATRs, time to think about putting sell stops in or just selling with your stops up here. Very narrow window. Here's another great entry, divergence off this. Here, let me just truncate this thing or turn off the ray. And let's do this. And the tighter these are, the better. Like the RSI course, the sharper these are, in other words, just get down to 4 periods. This is a better signal. Here's divergence in the lows. It's a lot to track. I mean, you might want to just try this in isolated incidences. But here's divergence, right? Double top, divergence, real great entry. Here's a little bit of divergence, not the best entry. And of course, you could run RSI in highs. You would see divergence here in high 3-period RSI. Here you see the lows. You also see the lows divergence. So people that run the wicks and stuff, you need to have an RSI of lows. I have had it all. I've done it all. In the end, it comes down to do you feel mentally stable to trade? So the thing is that you could have RSI of highs, and you can see that when you have confluence, closing divergence, lows, and you really load up in the trade. Not to say that this trade's the best trade in the world, but you're coming back up into the lows, right? So this is where the sellers would come in. But this is what the bears are thinking. This is the bearish pressure kind of. The same thing's done. Alexander Elder runs bull power and bear power. Now what he's done there is take a 13-period exponential moving average, and he's running a histogram of lows to the close and highs to the close. He's comparing the highs, and it's called bull and bear power. Dr. Alexander Elder. It's in here. So it's in the platform. A lot of the stuff made it to the platform back in the old days when people were, I don't see. Well, there's some cloud trading actually on the mobile device that you could run Ikamushu on your. I used to run it on my mobile phone, but then I would drive off the road. I'd look down at some insane cloud and just think, man, that's crazy. So here's another thing: is we could do the divergence in lows, but it would be a different kind of order entry, because here I'm using it for stop entry. Imagine that you have a system, or I don't think you can build a robot for this stuff. Somebody emailed me about. Okay, EAs, just walk away, because unless you've got 20 EAs running that look just like this and they're tweaked out to different sizing, like one's going to load. I don't even know how you tell an EA to look for divergence. That's just a human thing. It's not possible. He's not going to. EAs are bullshit all day long. You show me EA that's fucking making money. I got out traded EA. Come on. Robots aren't doing surgery on people. It's like doing trading is like doing surgery. Here's also a signal to get long from RSI standards is you can't. If you think EAs work, then you probably went to you ever been to a car wash and have them take your antenna off the car? Okay. So there's your more oversold, higher price. But for me, the entry reason is the ATR. So you don't need to know the closing prices. I'm just doing that for people that trade on the clock. You can imagine what's going on in here. It wouldn't matter. If that makes a difference on how you trade, this is forcing you to look at ATR. There's ATR trades. In other words, the market's forming a triangle. It's time to put buy stops and sell stops in here. You would have realized this profit, but you also have to have the sell limits up here to capture these wicks. Right now, the trade is sell stops and buy stops. That's it. Now, your target may be the next 25 pips, I think I got on this grid. What the hell I got in here? Yeah, looks like it. This is 100, that's 50. So you just need to figure that out. But there's so many trades, there's no fucking way you can build a robot that's going to accommodate this amount of fucking chaos. It's not possible. Imagine you took one of these new automated driving cars, these cars that could drive themselves. If you change the maps, if every road was changing every 5 minutes, the roads are different. How is this thing going to update the maps to drive on those roads? You mean to tell me all of a sudden this thing doesn't mind that there's a cliff coming up? Like, there's no way these cars, even a guy driving a car is having a problem with a cliff coming up, but you can see the cliff coming if you're a human being. There's no way a robot can see, oh, you know what, we've really been kind of like drifting along, like how long... And that we're starting to form a triangle. We're starting to narrow out. Anyways, there's a million ways to slice this and analyze it. This jumps out at you. You know what to do here. You start running trailing sell. You cancel replace, though. That's the problem. Every 4 hours, you've got to take your order, cancel, and move it up. And that's called work. And that's why people want a robot, because they don't want to do the work. But you can't subcontract surgery. I see it all the time. I can't tell you the amount of people that say, well, we're going to ship that out and have it done. I just had some laser welding done. I spent $200. I felt bad because I told this girl, why don't you... Yeah, I gave her girl privilege because I said to her, it doesn't have to be perfect. Because I felt like I thought she was going to fuck it up. And she did. So I said, I don't know. I kind of like, I don't want to sound mean because she was a girl. So I said, I just want to weld that. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I get it back. It's not perfect. And I said, I was just kidding when I said it doesn't have to be perfect. I said, I didn't realize that I'm a perfectionist now. So then I sent her another one to weld. And I thought, I'm going to give her a beginner's fuck up break. And the other one's like, it's okay. Kind of still a little bit off. And then I felt bad because I said, this other one looks slightly off too. And I'm paying, supposedly good money. I think any money's good money. And then the third one, I get it back. It's perfect. Now I feel like I have to send her flowers or something. It's fucking beautiful. Best weld I've ever seen. But, the markets are definitely some kind of crazy. And you've got to be, if you don't have a day job and you're trading this stuff, you got to be all over it. Now, 4-hour chart, not so much, kind of not the best entry, more risk, smaller positions or whatever you can afford, but you still got to pepper these markets with more than one order. So this is the reason why when the ATR is low, you're going to get in on stop and you're going to get in a structure retest, because that's going to be the important thing is, do you get, you're going to get filled on some of this stuff. It's going to be a great trade, but you'd have to have a bunch of pending orders out there to make it worth your while. If you're not afraid of trading, you shouldn't be afraid of just putting multiple orders in there. This means that you have to accept the fact that some of those aren't going to work out. That's going to be tough if you overanalyze the market, I think. So if you go to the 4-hour chart, there weren't that many British pound. You had to really, and here you can see the divergence. You can only, when you see a failure swing like this in the lows, it's divergence on some fucking indicator. You don't need to look at that. See, once you can see what the indicator would see. Now here's low to low. A low becomes a low. But look at the vapor. Look at a little bit. Look at the bear kind of bullish pressure in a way building up here. The vacuum forming above that, which is amazing. So it even means it's more vacuum. And once you took this out, man, that's vicious. So if you flip this to if you wanted to have a buy system running on another screen, all you have to do is take your indicator here and create a buy screen. So some of this just comes down to getting organized and filtering to just look at the highs. It seems really, it's hard for me to see the highs on the wicks in this smoothed out, you cordon it off with the line. It's a smoother view of the highs. Oh, I almost didn't complete that sentence. Shaky ground there. And here is the vacuum formed by the bears pressing it down. Now there's not one higher high on that 4-hour. Huge vacuum forming on the upside. And look at that wick. Jesus, man. Here was the big vacuum forming on the highs. Here the cause for the effect. You fill up that hole there. And hit that round, come all the way back here, and God knows what happened during all this, but if you can see the wick entry, you have buy limit sitting here to capture. Look how tight that ran. It's a 10 pip window down here. So if you just look at price, that's all I'm saying. Just look at price. And incredible, right? Incredible retest of lows. When time doesn't matter, the volatility is the only thing that really matters, I think, honestly. Here's some, if you have this chart running and you can see that there's a rectangle vacuum here. Here would be the fake breakout, and it must have gone up here at some point. We don't know the internal story of how it got there, the bull bear, the doji, whatever the fuck. You don't need that. You could just trade breakouts and make more money than Jesus if he ever made any money trading breakouts, because look at how high probability that we have a vacuum identified by the fact that it's just so silly. Here, the ATR is too big to put a buy stop here. It doesn't make any sense. Hopefully this is where your buy limits came in. See? Makes it very easy to picture what the trade plan should be. And it's all about this vertical price. If it ever came back to here, do you think buyers would come in? Well, they're probably not going to pull it down. It's going to take a while, and you have to drift down. Sometimes it takes forever to get to a target. Like anybody that bought here and was waiting for a retest of this and a touch of the 50-yard line, you waited forever, it seemed like. As opposed to this trade where you've got the double top, you've got the 50-yard line. If you sold here and you cashed out back into this, but look at this. I mean, my Lord. you don't, like, look, it's like rip up, sideways, rip down, but who's not buying all the way fucking down here next week for a bounce? If you ever make it back there. Right now, it's got to go sideways now. What else is it going to do? 4-hour pressure's building up. That's 40 hours down. Look, the first glimmer now, this was the first scalp of the day. Going up here. Obviously, this is going to be a huge selling pressure up here, you know, this low. But it's not just that low, it's a whole area of low. From this to here, it's a whole zone in there. It's going to be a huge battle. And not to mention, this is a, we'll just call it a doji on the highs. See this loss of momentum? Like the bulls are almost holding a huge vapor lag here, right at the round. So buying on stops at the round, and buying at the round, and buying 20 pips below, and buying, you know, all the way down in there. And all these orders spread out like this. Because some of these you could take. You could have taken a scalp off of. I just think this is the way it needs to be. You're getting in here, you're getting out here. You got to stop here. You're buying here, you're getting out here. You got to stop here. You're getting in all through here, and maybe you cashed out of like $1 million from, you may, on 20 pips clean. This is a 20 pip clean with this, so much stop. Then when this comes back, you got buy limits sitting here again all next week. Buy limits to do the same thing over and over again, because you'll see the market do that, and you just trade it like that. Here it's kind of crazy to think, oh, well, I'll put a buy stop here, but, you know, 1 hour chart, you're going to have to put a buy stop there, but you also got to put a buy limit here and a buy limit here and a buy limit here, because you think it's going up. It doesn't mean that, oh, it's so strong it's going to just totally, and really, how many pips do you think that's going to be? It's not going to be shit. It's going to be a 10 pip move. So once you say that, you say, well, I should go down to the 5-minute chart. Well, you probably should, right? Because there's more money on the 5-minute chart. If you're just trading buy stop, buy stop, buy stop, stacking them up here, buy stop, then as soon as this starts to go up, they fill you, you're cashing out. Everybody knows this is the last rally the bulls had right at the round. They took it to the round and they fell down in the hole. And if you bought this whole area here on the 5, you can see that your exit had to be here. You're totally out of that trade by the time it whacks up into that. Here's a pullback, but your buy limits are sitting on, say, this top. Tops become bottoms, right? I'm sure that right here, the close was somewhere here, and this is the better entry too, but it's about getting in a dense pack like this. And each of these are just, look, it comes back to the round number. It's not that it came back to the round number because it came back to here just through an arbitrary manner. It's that it came back. Fibonacci rarely works to the number, but it's the idea that you're not over trade, you're waiting for it to pull back. Here are buy stops, right? We've come back to this top. Tops become bottoms. It's walking up. It can totally go nuts, though. And this is what surprises people a lot, is that out of nowhere. Look at this wick on this. Now, that was a trade. And you had to buy new lows. You're buying at the round anyways. You capture this for a 10 pip slam. Killer trade up into the double top inside the bottom. See how these are 5 decimal brokers. You can have baskets of orders in here. You can't have one ticket, though. It's never going to work with one ticket because you're going to miss, because that means you got to load. That's got to be a big trade, that one ticket. If you keep getting chopped out on too big of it, you got to get this perfect Goldilocks thing. Here, it's a buy right now, right? And your stop might be here. And you might start buying on limits down here. But if you pull the trigger at the market, and you can make so much money to here's your exit. See, the problem with the 5-minute chart is that you can see your exits here, 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 and right here is the sellers are going to come back in again. All over again. They're gonna run it up. They're gonna take out this double top. They're gonna fill that void, and down she goes. But if the market's moving so fast you can't get in on that trade, just start putting buy limits down out in front of it, because you always know that's going to be a good trade. Just like if you miss this move, well, put some limits up here and trade the kickback. Right? British pound. I don't know if that helps, but it definitely makes it in your face. See the 15-minute. You can really see the volatility there. Look at the shape, so you can see the tops. But this is the huge vacuum forms. Here, not much of a response to that. In fact, if you're running buy stops, you didn't even get filled. That's another thing about running stop entry like that. You're getting into defensive, supposedly defensive trading, as opposed to offensive. You know, offensive instead of offensive. And that's letting the market prove you right. Right? You buy stops trailing right now on the 15. Doesn't mean you can't gap down or up when this thing opens up next time it opens. And by the way, the Bitcoin is still trading right now, believe it or not. I can't believe this market. Look at, we're below 2,000 now. So if you bought Bitcoin up there, you're so pissed. I'm almost doubled this account. I'm at 93 million. Look at this thing. What a bloodbath on the Bitcoin. Oh God, look at that puppy smash. Oof. And it's amazing. I cannot believe this market never closes. It's just, I had no idea. I didn't think about it. Think about it. Look at this inverted hammer on the weekly forming right now. Look at the daily, no, but look at that. Look at that inverted hammer. Lordy B. Oh boy. Anyways, it's my market analyzations. Okay, any incomplete sentences, you have to refer to the archive. I usually update. It's hard to, when you first start to have an idea, you can really rattle it off. But later on, when you have tangential thinking, tangentialitis, it's called. This is why I don't complete the sentence. I just have another thought that I think's way more better. So I always insert that.